Imagine you are a Soviet cosmonaut in the 1960s. You have just survived re-entry. Your capsule has plummeted through the atmosphere and slammed into the ground. You are alive. But you have a problem. You didn't land on a nice, flat runway. You landed in the middle of the Siberian wilderness. It is 40 degrees below zero. You are surrounded by a frozen swamp that stretches for hundreds of miles. The snow is 6 feet deep. Underneath the snow is a deadly mixture of mud and water. If you try to walk, you will sink and freeze. If they send a helicopter, it can't land because the ground is too soft. If they send a truck, it will bog down in 10 feet. If they send a tank, it will sink like a stone. You are trapped in one of the most hostile environments on Earth, but then you hear a sound. It isn't an engine roar. It's a grinding, churning noise, like a giant blender tearing up the earth. Out of the tree line comes a machine that defies logic. It doesn't roll. It slithers. It has no wheels. It has no tracks. Instead, it rides on two massive spinning corkscrews. It tears through the snow, floats over the mud, and swims across the open water. It drives right up to your capsule. This is the ZL-2906, the screw tank. It is one of the strangest, most destructive, and most brilliant vehicles ever built. This is the story of the machine that didn't need roads because it was designed to eat them. To understand why this monster exists, we have to look at the unique problem of the Soviet space race. Unlike the Americans, who landed their Apollo capsules in the ocean to be picked up by Navy ships, the Soviets landed their Soyuz capsules on land. Specifically, in the vast, empty steppes of Kazakhstan and Siberia. Usually the landing was precise, but spaceflight is unpredictable. A guidance error could drop a crew hundreds of miles off course, deep into the taiga, the dense, swampy forests of the north. The Soviet engineers realized they had a nightmare scenario. They could put a man in space, but they might not be able to get him out of a swamp. They needed a vehicle that was truly all-terrain, not just a jeep. They needed something that could cross the uncrossable. Enter the ZIL factory. The engineers at ZIL looked at traditional options. Tires were out. They sank in mud. Tank treads were better, but in the deep liquid swamps of Siberia, even tanks would get stuck or break their tracks. They needed something that generated lift as well as thrust. They looked back at history, all the way to ancient Greece, to the Archimedes screw. The principle is simple. If you take a screw and rotate it against a solid material, it moves forward. The engineers took a boat-shaped hull and mounted two massive hollow metal cylinders underneath. Around each cylinder, they welded a spiral blade. When the cylinders rotated inward, the spiral blades gripped the mud, snow, or water and pushed the vehicle forward. If they rotated outward, the vehicle moved backward. If they rotated in the same direction, the vehicle would slide sideways like a crab. It was named the Schneckerkod, the screw walker. The final result, the ZIL-2906, was a compact beast. It weighed 2 tons. It was powered by 2 muddy V4 engines taken from a Zazi car. It didn't look fast. On hard ground, it was terrible. The screws would grind against the concrete, destroying the road and shaking the crew to pieces. But the moment it hit the mud, magic happened. While a tank would sink, the screw tank floated. The massive cylinders acted like pontoons. As they spun, they churned the mud into a slurry, propelling the vehicle at up to 30 miles per hour through terrain that would swallow a man whole. It was unstoppable. It could climb a 30-degree slope of slush. It could transition from water to ice without slowing down. But the machine was violent. Driving the screw tank was like riding a washing machine during an earthquake. The noise was deafening, the vibration was constant, and the environmental damage was absolute. Wherever the screw tank went, it left a trail of destruction. The screw blades didn't just roll over the grass, they shredded it, they tore up tree roots, they turned pristine meadows into ploughed fields of mud. For this reason, the vehicle was strictly banned from paved roads. It had to be carried on the back of a larger transporter, the Bluebird, and only deployed when the terrain became impassable. The mission profile was intense. When a capsule was reported lost in a swamp, the recovery team would drive the transporter to the edge of the wilderness. Then they would unleash the screw tank. The two-man crew would climb inside the cramped, heated cabin. They would drive into the swamp, navigating by radio. The screw tank would churn its way through the forest, knocking down small trees, swimming across freezing rivers, until it found the smoking capsule. The crew would then load the exhausted cosmonauts into the back and ferry them to safety. It was a machine born of necessity, a machine that sacrificed everything, comfort, efficiency, and nature for the sole purpose of mobility. But as the Cold War ended, the need for such extreme machines faded. GPS improved, capsules became more accurate, helicopters got better. The screw tanks were parked in the back lots of the ZIL factory. They sat there, rusting in the rain, their massive spiral blades dull and silent. Today, only a few survive in museums. But the legacy of the screw tank lives on. In the mining industry, in the deepest mud pits of the world, you can still see screw-propelled vehicles working where nothing else can. They are a reminder of a time when engineers were given a blank check to solve impossible problems, a time when the answer to "how do we cross a swamp" was "let's build a tank that swims on screws." It remains the ultimate off-road vehicle. A monster that didn't just conquer the terrain, it chewed it up and spit it out. Thanks for watching Iron Legacy. If you enjoyed this story of the Swamp Eater, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments. If you were stuck in a Siberian swamp, would you trust your life to a machine driven by giant corkscrews? See you in the next one.